Dawn fractures along the ridge of Flesquières, a pale blade worrying the gray. Frost powders the hedges. Old wire glitters like a field of dead stars. The earth smells of iron and wet chalk. Down in the hollow, engines gather into a single animal noise, low, heavy, hungry. The first echelons of Mark IV's climbing from their night dens, plates shuddering, exhausts coughing, track links chewing the damp soil into dark bread. The valley lifts that sound and throws it toward the ridge, where a single gun waits. 7.7 meters. Trail bit into broken masonry, carriage scarred, barrel angled with the patience that only stone and stubborn men understand. Beside it stands Johannes Joachim Theodor Krüger, of 8 Far 108, lean from winter and work. The cuff of his left sleeve is wrapped in a dirty bandage. The glove in his right palm is thin where iron insists on leaving its memory in the palm. He speaks to no one. He listens to metal, to the measure of wind, to the small clockwork in the breach. Breath once, breath twice, breath thrice. Breath pinned to the sight, finger steady. The first round leaves like a word he has hoarded for months. It finds the belly of the lead tank and teaches it silence. Plates pop. A seam sighs. The whole beast sags, kneeling to an authority it does not recognize. A hatch screams open. A man, shoulder burning, empties himself into the white air. Krüger has already forgotten him. The shell case leaps out with a dental click of duty completed. The next round goes home with the good weight of bread. Count in the throat, 1, 2, 3, and the ridge answers with fire. The second tank believes in thickness. It believes in math. The shell arrives a half. Heartbeat late, but speaking a language the math never learned. The side plate takes the news with a hollow ring, and the vehicle leans as if the ground beneath has confessed a private shame. Dust backs away from the impact. Smoke writes a quick sentence and erases itself. Somewhere someone swears. Somewhere someone else forgets how hands work. They keep coming. Wire crowns snag on horns and periscopes. Vision slits stare like fish eyes. Each track panel lifts a skin of soil, shows its teeth, bites again. The third round walks straight into a sponson gun and blows out the candle there. The machine exhales. A light dims behind a lid. Shouting climbs the slope in torn threads, then breaks against the hard face of Flesquières. One tank turns its heavy stomach like a shield. Krüger does not honor thickness. He seeks the place where metal changes its mind. The fourth shot arrives at the seam with the intimacy of grief. The sound is not an explosion, but a hinge ripped out of its history. The machine pauses, learns stillness, forgets forward. Word runs the smashed lanes of the village like a black marble, fast, certain, a thorn on the ridge, a tooth in the wall. Formations adjust. Smoke pours itself into low places, climbs broken corners, lays down a blind cloth. Krüger has no use for smoke. He reads shadows. Where smoke thins, a tank's silhouette fattens. Where smoke fattens, infantry grows thin. The fifth round bites the rim of a track, throws a wheel, lays the beast into its own trench. The sixth licks the turret cheek, slides a hand's width, and clamps the hinge. The turret coughs backward, a helmet jarred on bone. Heat arrives as a taste. Paint turns bitter. Oil opens like cut fruit. Winter light runs its fingers over everything and finds warmth only in the gun. The bandage on Krüger's wrist darkens. The left hand becomes a crab that grips because gripping is all it knows. He does not look at the houses, which are embarrassing. Houses should keep water out. He does not look at the sky, which is busy. He looks down the sight and into a corridor of air where heavy things go and lighter things return. There are men who carry verses in their heads, men who carry numbers, men who carry grudges. He carries distance, wind, and angle. 3 brothers who show up when called by their proper names. Engines in the hollow go soft for a breath. Not because the herd is spent, but because men inside steel discover a thin space between courage and arithmetic. How many mouths up there? 2? 4? A platoon? The question passes tank to tank like a sparrow. The answer is 1. But 1 is an impolite number in war, and no one says it aloud. The 7th confession comes out of a vent in flame, as if the machine is trying to speak a last language. The 8th tears a bogey and teaches the track to chew mud like teeth on grit. The 9th flips a turret lid wrong way up, a mouth shocked into silence. The 10th opens the sky through a red, hot circle large enough to drown in. By noon, the fog is threads of silver snagged on broken uprights. Survivors angle for the flanks. Doctrine had promised straight lines and is now embarrassed. Krüger shifts his nest by inches, slides the trail along brick, peels mortar with the spade shoe. The iron sight fills with valley again. No hope there, only numbers. Range is a kind of prayer he believes in. Wind is a sentence he recites. Angle is a monosyllable that decides the day. He has 3 words and a cadence to make them true. The sky brings witnesses. A BE-2C drifts like a patient heron, canvas trembling in the same cold that makes the ridge glitter. The observer hunches in leather, a monk over scripture, pencil clenched in a string-knit glove with the fingertips cut off. He was told to hunt strong points and knots of traffic, to mind the new iron shoeboxes below. What he draws instead is a handprint, dark bowls stepping down from the ridge, chalk ringed where heat bullied wet soil. He lifts his camera. The shutter snips. The earth nods as if caught. On the back he writes, "Single gun impeding column. Ridge holds." Too high to see a face, too human not to imagine one. He draws a small arrow by the gun and writes, "Stubborn." Inside a tank, the day writes in vibration. Matthew Crowther, driver, 22. Once kept time with his foot on the clutch while playing skiffle in pubs. Now time keeps him. A harness, a lever, an oath. The compartment smells of old stew and hot iron, tastes of constant coin. The intercom is a liar, promises words, delivers bees. Before the first hit he dreamt forward, a gray thread pulling them up through miraculous wire. The first hit makes the thread a wire and brightens it white. A sting at the plate, a sideways feeling. Then the big sound builds a wall. A hand lands on his shoulder, his commander's. Heavy, borrowed from a larger man. Left a hair. No, hold, hold. He holds because hands remember. The second knock is ruder and nearer. The engine sounds tired. The tank lists. "We're over," someone says. He knows the name, and it sounds like a stranger's. He thinks of a lane near Chorley where he reversed his father's cart between hedges while a robin watched. Lanes are what the mind wants when there are no lanes. To their right, another tank makes a sound like tearing cloth, long, humiliating. He dabs the clutch. Metal complains. The beast tries to obey. A blade of light slips the slit. Blink, and darkness is merciful again. Later, when people want a story, he will say the ridge looked like a mailed fist, the air too full to breathe, and before the loud bangs there was always the small one, the polite knock, the steel apologizing. In the roofless houses of Flesquières, a boy named Emile, new boots, old hunger, moves through a stair that remembers being a stair. He watches tanks like cows return to a parish where cows are rumors. When the first kneels, he does not cheer. He counts, because he once counted sheep, and the body hates changing arithmetic under stress. 1, 2, 3, 4. At 6, his mouth tastes chalk. Through the hole where glass used to live, he sees a gun and a man and thinks not soldier or enemy, but blacksmith, like the one at Tresco who reads iron the way father reads the missile. The gunner reads the tanks like that, hand on hinge, eye on seam, and turns the page by squeezing. Later, picking his way between hulls gone to stew, Emile keeps his hands tight to his ribs so he won't learn what wrecks remember. In a gutter scoured by heat, he finds a brass mouth bloomed into green clover tongues. He pockets it because boys pocket the world. Years later, clean-handed people will ask what he saw. He will close his fist around metal gone soft and let the fist answer. Afternoon turns the herd into a rumor. Small men with large packs move in 2s and 3s. Heads turn to make ears where orders might live. They hunt a gun. No. A battery. No. A nest. They oversell. In the thinned edges of smoke, Krüger watches without feeling hunted. He feels like a man after moving a piano with 2 friends who were late and a cart with a wheel that rolls only in theory. His body files a complaint. His mouth stamps it, received. The next round he sends is addressed to the small space between motion and decision, between we should and we will. It arrives. The legs under the purpose forget their grammar and fold. There is a science to this. And the ridge, now a desk, keeps the diagrams long after the author is ground to lime. A Mark IV is a conversation of weaknesses disguised as a brute. Rivet rows where stress migrates like birds. Seams where plates argue and forget listeners. A turret ring with an innocent gap that thinks secrecy is a circle. Vents that want to be eyes and end up as mouths. A 7.7 centimeter shell is not impressed by swagger. It courts angles. It desires the little shout between plates. It wants to become pressure, where pressure already frets. Krüger's craft is simple to say, hard to do. Deny the target its idea of itself. Give the round a language the metal secretly understands. When it works, the sound is not triumph. It is admission. A shell from elsewhere, lazy, lost, or lucky, punches the wall and peels stone like bad fruit. Splinters flick and score the bandage. Cloth unravels and waves a pale flag to no one. Blood meets air and remembers it. He bites the cloth, ties a knot with sailor stubbornness. The barrel stays a stove. A case rings tile. Counting retreats inside where it is muscle and tide. He moves the piece by a yard and builds a new angle out of brick, chalk, and will. By late light, the valley has quarrel quiet. The breech ticks in cooling syllables. Brick remembers sugar the way teeth do. Regretfully, Krüger slides down the wall and sits because bodies insist. He wraps the bandage again, not to stop blood. Blood has plans, but to tell the left hand a story about who is in charge. He closes his eyes and sees the small map all gunners draw. The triangle of wind, distance, and angle stitched to a moving field of error. He files the morning there with the other mornings the war has tried to own. Night accumulates. The cold returns with its ledger. Somewhere a chaplain drafts names he will someday pronounce wrong. Somewhere, under canvas that used to be a church tent, a surgeon removes a rivet from a man, as if declaring him a machine that can be repaired. Somewhere a clerk writes a sentence that will outlive all of them. A single gun impeded the advance at Flesquières. The clerk has never been cold like this. The sentence does not care. It travels, posters, headlines, later footnotes. Footnotes argue about the name, as footnotes do. The ridge will not. A second day brings a higher witness. The BE-2C circles with the patience of a bird that has learned the weight of truth. The observer, whose name is inked on wool he did not buy, sketches again, this time adding the cracked angle of the gun's carriage, the odd bite taken from the wall, the ladder of hulls dark along the slope. He is not sentimental. He draws what is there. Yet in the white margin he writes "stubborn" again, and underlines it, because some facts insist on repeating themselves. Crowther wakes to metal humility. The tank has gone from creature to room. The room has corners only in theory. Breath fogs what glass remains. And when he rubs a circle, the ridge stares back, unimpressed. He tastes coin. He moves his toes to prove to himself that toes exist. A new order arrives with the careful clarity of people who have discovered how loud they are. Move, hold, yield, take. They move and hold and yield and take, and the ridge acknowledges them by not caring. The village breathes like a wounded thing. Emile learns a map of absence, where spoon drawers used to be, where a chair leg used to knock a shin, where a cat used to sleep. He finds a book that remembers being a book, damp and swollen, and kind enough to give him one dry page with a saint's face flaking from it. He tucks the page under his shirt because warmth needs work. From the slope, he hears a new rumor. Men saying Krüger with the careful consonants of respect. He rolls the name around in his mouth and decides it is a name the valley would keep even if paper did not. The fight shifts, somewhere beyond Marcoing and Masnières. Papers are signed and unsigned by the day's outcomes. Here, on this stubborn inch of geometry, the work repeats with small differences that add up to history. Krüger is not immortal. He is simply punctual to his craft. He denies thickness. He courts seam. He pries at the soft spot in courage. He is, by now, colder than the iron in his hands and warmer than the men who try to unlearn him with orders. Near the week's turn, the weather considers mercy and declines. A new push comes, narrow, angry. Precise, and the ridge answers with its old arithmetic. Somewhere in the answer, a shell, not his, arrives early and wrong, and the wall beside him opens like a spoiled pear. The splinters are tidy and unforgiving. The bandage fails for the last time, and the left hand learns a kind of floating. He considers the facts. He takes one more range. He sets one more angle. Distance, wind, angle. Three brothers who show up even when you cannot. The round goes, and the valley produces another bowl of black sky. He stays as long as the gun stays a thing he can speak to. When that grammar falters, he leaves, not bravely and not in disgrace, but the way a craftsman puts down a cracked tool. The infantry that finds the gun finds a story to carry. They talk about the carriage scar as if it were a medal. They talk about the brick lip his spade carved as if it were a doctrine. They point to the line of hulls, and their fingers tremble. Not from cold, but from the fact of counting to 10 in a place that has no numbers left. After Cambrai's surge and counter-surge, after lines sag and tighten like old belts, the ridge remains a teacher. Men come to look and learn angles the way apprentices stare at a master's bench after the shop is quiet. They put their palms to the wall and feel the old recoil still there, a polite tap through stone. They learn that not all courage is forward. Some of it is angular. Some of it is a refusal to move an inch of air because the world insists. Years tumble. Poppies organize themselves at crater lips. Children climb cooled hulls and learn the slow geography of defeat. A veteran of the Canadian regiments returns on a summer day and lays a tot of something brown on a stone, because a man who held his ground saved a road that needed saving. He has no speech. He lets the cup speak. A French woman rotates her wedding ring once, twice, thrice, and says a name she never learned to spell but learned to say, Krüger. Emile grows into the kind of man who pockets nails because nails are the world's punctuation. When asked for the story, he does not perform. He loosens his fist, shows the greened brass, and says, I kept this because it kept me. Far from chalk and hedges, rows of white stones learn the sea's voice. Names stand to attention in weather finer than any parade. One of them wears too many letters for a small stone, and yet the stone holds them. Johannes Joachim, Theodor Krüger. A stranger kneels and leaves a bent shard of brass from the ridge, and takes away nothing but the counting stuck in his head. Ask what myth is, and the ridge will answer with facts. Frost, smoke, and the color of paint when it dies. Ask again, and it will offer a name. Ask a third time, and it will hand you a morning in 1917 when a man stayed and 10 machines knelt, and it will suggest, gently, that before you do anything important, you count to 3 and aim for the place where stubborn things reconsider.